Let me introduce myself. My name is Teresa Duran. I'm the coordinator for the Office of Enrollment. It's the Enrollment, Permits, and Student Records. So even when your children have gone through PUSD schools and you're done with open enrollment, it is our office that also helps with their transcripts a couple years after they're out of high school. So I'm a parent. I've had 4 children who have graduated from PUSD schools, exclusively from kindergarten through high school. They went to school here. Just as a point of interest, so the oldest one is finishing up, hopefully soon, a PhD at UC Santa Barbara. I have a second son who went to UCLA in engineering environmental science. I have 2 daughters. One's graduated from Berkeley and the other one is a junior. I say that because sometimes people are like, oh, I don't know about kids from PUSD. You know what? They had peers who went to, what some might even consider more amazing schools. I was really thrilled that my kids, were able to go, and I was able to afford the UCs. I'm going to say right now that at least my experience has been that, children in PUSD are extremely well served. And in the years since my children, the last one graduated a couple of years ago, they just keep accelerating sort of the level of expectation, the options that families have. So tonight I'm here to kind of reaffirm for you that you do have options, great options in PUSD, and how to go about sort of accessing them. So let's get this going here. This is an annual event. It's open only right now to residents in the PUSD. It entails 2 lotteries. So the application window that's opening up now and runs through February 2nd will end with a lottery after everyone's submitted, and we've gone through some applications, and then we will have a second lottery. The first thing that I should mention is anybody who has not toured a school or has any kind of confusion about their school or whatever, begins with taking a look at the website if you don't know already. Each family has a school of residence for both elementary, not just both, for elementary, middle, and high school. And you can find the map on the website. And so families that are choosing to go to their schools of residence they don't participate in open enrollment. Only families that are choosing a different school, or in the case of the dual language and the French programs that are on that little asterisk down there. If Pasadena is your school of residence, but you want to do the French dual language immersion program, you need to apply for that program. You're not automatically in it because you live in Altadena's attendance. And the same goes for Jackson and Jefferson. Okay, if you're interested in Jackson or Jefferson Spanish dual language programs, you would need to apply for those. This would be a little short checklist of things that families would want to plan to do as they're getting ready to do open enrollment. I definitely encourage families to do their research. You've given us a helpful idea that just, something, an image right away that would kind of let you know which sites have which things going on and what are those programs that they have. There are certain things that you're going to find at every school. There's going to be dynamic principals. The teachers are credentialed. All the teachers get the same professional development. The Common Core is what's being, is the rigorous academics. There are other variables, though, that are very different. There are 2 different start times for elementary schools. Some start at 7:50. Some start at 8:30. All schools have the Learns program after school, but other schools may have a Parks and Rec. They may have the Y. So you need to kind of think through, what your family's needs are, and then kind of look at, what some of the differences are in the schools, other than the things that I did mention to you that are kind of consistent. So I mentioned earlier when the gentleman was asking, could this be a little bit longer? It's 3 phases. We've completed the first phase, which was the sibling registration and the priority pre-enrollment. And That is described a little bit more in the next slide. These dates I have on a little magnet here that you can put on your refrigerator. So if you apply in the first lottery and you didn't get your first choice or your second choice or what you really wanted, then hang out and try again for the second lottery, and there are the dates for the second lottery. So this is the sibling and priority registration. I'll just quickly say that a student who has gotten a permit to go to a school, it is now possible for their sibling to as well get a permit at that school when they're ready to, enter a grade. There are some, stipulations. The sibling and the older sibling and the younger sibling both need to be attending the school at the same time. But so, for example, we'll use Pasadena again. If a student got a permit to go to Pasadena for elementary school and they're a fifth grader, and now there's a child who's in the family who they would like to enter into kindergarten, in that case, the sibling priority will not be available to the family because the fifth grader will no longer be on that campus next year. So that's what we mean when the two children need to be at the same school. There's also priority the priority that happens at this time is for Willard's International Baccalaureate students, the fifth graders who want to continue with the IB program. They would get to go and do a pre-enrollment at Blair for the IB program during this window of time. They don't need to participate by putting in an application and going into the lotteries, okay? All of this information, by the way, is at openenrollment.info on our website. All of this and more. These are the seats that a school will have available for the signature programs, but also some of the neighborhood schools know that they're going to have some openings. So, for example, Hamilton is a neighborhood school. They're not going to fill completely up with the students who live in their attendance area, so they will have some openings for other children in the district. It's the principals who basically formulate their projections. They, know what their past trends are and everything. They know how many siblings have done the pre-enrollment, so that's how we get to projections. And they are, right now, posted on the website. So first lottery, the application window, it's about to begin. It doesn't matter if you get up tomorrow morning at 6 in the morning, and I'm crossing my fingers that everything is open and working, but it doesn't matter if you're in tomorrow or if you wait until February 2nd, although I would caution you on February 2nd to, take care of it by lunchtime. Don't wait till the evening when either we have some malfunction, which we haven't had, but you may have one with your computer or something. You can use your phone. You can do this application from just about anywhere, although I think it does work better if you just do it on your laptop at home. Don't try and do it. Wouldn't recommend doing it with your phone. You'll have 5 choices, which may seem like a lot, but if you stop and think that at elementary school and kindergarten, for example, you might be interested in the dual language Spanish program. Well, we have 3 different sites. Different ones have different numbers of spaces, so you might want to apply for all 3 of those because you definitely want to be in a dual language program. Maybe you're thinking if we didn't do Spanish, we'd do French, so there's one more choice, and then maybe you've got something else in mind. So you will have 5 choices. You do not have to put down 5 choices, okay? If you only have 1 choice, just put down your 1 choice. Don't put down extra choices. And 1 per child. So 1 application per child, and And if you have twins or same grade siblings, you do an application for each one. If and only if you make the selections, your choices, 1 through 5, identical on both applications, the first child who hopefully gets selected, they will link to the second child and both children will be accepted. But if you are to list the student's choices differerly, I'll put this one and this one and this one, and then over here I'll put this and this. And so if they're not in identical order, then they won't do they won't partner them up and assign them both to a school. It is random, okay? Employees get a preference. So those projections that I spoke about, 10% of what was turned into our office, 10% of those seats are set aside for employees. The employees do not ever use all 10%. Now they will use, the employees are like the families in the district. They're looking for signature programs and things like that if they come into this. So, the number of seats that might be available to them probably will fill, but there are a lot of seats that are not used by employees. They just, so. there's some qualifications for employees, and they have to be full-time monthly employees, and then any spots that employees don't use, we will put into the second lottery. Okay. This is the time frame for the second lottery. It's a much shorter window. That's about the only thing on this slide that I would tell you is it's a much shorter window of time. It is 1 week, okay, to get in there and do it. You cannot have registered in any other previous phase. So I should back up and say, if you did a priority enrollment for a sibling to go now to the same school as another one of your children, you have pre-enrolled for next year. You are not able to have that and go in and apply for some other options, okay? Once you've done a pre-enrollment, you are registered technically for next year, and the open enrollment process is, the application process is not available to you. In that final phase, the second lottery, families who don't get any of their choices, which is why if you only have one choice, just put down one choice. Don't put a second choice, because if you have your one choice, you don't get selected. Some of the families who do get selected in the second lottery, they're not going to register. Some things have changed, so there will be a handful of seats that we will start to call on a wait list that's only created to fill these last remaining spots that families in the second lottery didn't take. There is not going to be a wait list at the end of open enrollment of all the students who didn't get into Pasadena Kindergarten or anything like that. If there were 2 spots left over at Pasadena that families didn't take after they were assigned a spot in the second lottery, we'll fill those 2 seats. Anybody else who was on that wait list, the wait lists go away. They basically become a sorry, unfortunately, you were not placed list, and it just goes in a drawer. We're done until the following year. As I said, after the second lottery, students who were not selected for anything their names will be put on the wait list for their first choice. And if for some reason somebody who had gotten a spot didn't take it, the first person on that list will be contacted, and if they say, you know what, thanks, but we went to our school of residence, we're really happy now, then we'll go to the next person until we fill the spot, and then we're done. Yeah, usually we're done by if open enrollment ends at the end of April, and I would say early in the second week of May, we've probably contacted. We have to call you, to leave a message if you're not there. We have to give you, 24 hours to call us back. If we don't, we give you one more call. Then if you don't, and we'll send you an email, but if you don't respond, then, the clock is ticking. We're not going to wait because we know that there's other people. Okay, hopefully everybody knows these dates if you've got a kindergartner. So children need to be 5 years old in order to enter kindergarten. So they have to be 5 by September 1st, 2018 to go to school in PUSD. Transitional kindergartners are children who are turning 5 the day after the cutoff, so September 2nd to what was the old kindergarten cutoff date, December 2nd. And then there is expanded transitional kindergarten, and there are the dates for that. It goes December 3rd to March. I wanted to say about ETK, and I know the superintendent it was positive, but I am going to suggest that if you have a student who is ETK eligible, that you definitely have a backup plan, okay? I don't know if you're aware that, the district is looking to, has declining enrollment, has some budget concerns. They're going to look at a lot of things, and, ETK could be one of those things. So definitely have a backup plan. It would be wonderful. We all think that ETK is great, but you never know. And then actually, it is not mandatory for a child to be in school until they are 6 years old. So that's why, if you're wondering, why is there a 6-year-old? That's when you have to be at school. You need to be, okay? I will share with you that there are some children who are in that transitional kindergarten window. We have a board policy, it's called an Administrative Regulation 5111. The district solidly supports the Kindergarten Readiness Act, which is that children be 5 when they start school on September 1st. There is a little range from the 1st to the 20th of September. If a child is turning 5 in that window, they can explore. The information is online. I'll call it appealing, an opportunity to be able to go to kindergarten. I'm also going to say, though, as I said a minute ago, that is not something that the district supports. And in fact, if a family goes for it, they usually have a document they sign that, acknowledges that, the district feels strongly that, children, are ready by September 1st. And ideally, they would then, if they're not, go into transitional kindergarten, have some extra time and come the next year. These are teeny weeny, you can't see them, but these are the some stats for the number of seats we've had available, how many people have gotten spots. This PowerPoint is up on the website, so you can look at it there. If you want some more data related to open enrollment last year, on our website, if you go to Board of Education and you click on meetings, or you click on communiques, June 2nd, 2017, there's a whole report. It shows you all the projections last year. It shows you a lot of information. The one thing I will share with you on this slide is about almost 75% of the families who applied last year in open enrollment got their first choice. Okay? So, if you weren't hopeful, be hopeful. There are some families that don't get any choices. Okay? Some kindergarten families generally is where that happens. And it might happen to a middle school student, or but it's not like, it's mostly in kindergarten. I just talked about the percentages. You can, like I said, find this on the website. The superintendent has just talked about many of these things. So now you know that we have French, Spanish, and Mandarin Chinese in the K-8 arena, and then we do have, none of you, I don't think, you're getting close to high school maybe, but there are college and career academies. The dual language programs continue on into high school for students. The International Baccalaureate program becomes so much more meaningful at high school. I don't know if anybody's mentioned, but the goal for a student in high school is to get the International Baccalaureate program diploma. That's in addition to your high school diploma. That diploma is almost a ticket to almost any university, not just here in the States, but anywhere. It's a say it again? It is. I mean, the students work super hard. I mean, but it's amazing, and they do get wonderful options as a result of participating. We've had dual enrollment with Pasadena City College. Had a little glitch related to contracts and things, but I believe it's coming back. And then, of course, we have advanced placement programs. We have middle school kids who are taking advanced placement tests. These are the academies, but there's one on every campus. One of these is on one of our high school campuses. I guess what I'm trying to say is every one of our high school campus has an academy. They don't have all of these, okay? So we have some permit-only schools and programs. We've talked about dual language. Like I said, if you live in, let's say if you live in Jackson's attendance area and you want to go to the dual language Spanish program, you do need to apply for that. It's not, though Jackson may be your school of residence, you can't just go in and sign up for dual language. The other schools that are schools or programs, Marshall Fundamental is a permit-only school, so no one in the school district is assigned. If you looked at the map, nobody's assigned to go to Marshall. It's open to everybody. But there's something called neighborhood preference. And each one of these programs and the school that are up there have neighborhood preference. I don't think I need this to illustrate it. Basically, when open enrollment comes, there is a boundary that's kind of created around Marshall. It's very narrow. It's close into the school. Families who live in that boundary, 50% of the seats that have been projected are set aside for those families, okay? And they are the first ones that will be in the queue to get those, okay? Same with San Rafael. It's not a neighborhood school, but a little small boundary is created during open enrollment. And again, families who live within that prescribed area, 50% of the seats are set aside for them. I don't know if that little illustration helps at all. So if there's more students in the neighborhood preference than there are seats, then if they haven't gotten selected, they go back in and they become part of the rest of the students who are going through the lottery to get to a school. Oh, yeah, very important, very, very important. The last little bullet there is if you live in the preference zone for a school, let's say you live in the preference zone for Marshall, you must make Marshall your #1 choice in order to benefit from the neighborhood preference, okay? So if you're in a dual language, interested in a dual language program at Field, and you live in that little preference area, that Mandarin Chinese program has to be your first choice. The same way that you submitted your application online, that is the same way that you would be able to get the results of the lottery. So you'll have if your student is currently in PUSD, they have an ID number, which is what you're going to use. If your student is not, you'll be given one as you do your application. You'll be assigned a number at the end of your application. It's a temporary student ID number, and you use that number and your child's birth date in order to go online and find the results of the lottery. We will also mail a notification home. Sometimes the mail is, not as timely as we'd like it to be, which is why we're counting on families. It's their responsibility to find the information online, hopefully also get the letter that tells them the same information. If a student who's accepted doesn't go and register on time, and literally by the time that's in that's defined in the letter, the seat is forfeited, okay? You can't come back and say, and we've had situations where people are out of the country or something's going on. You must plan for this. At a minimum, you would have someone that you've entrusted some of your, the documents to and done a little affidavit that says, what your situation is. And if you have emergencies do come up, if suddenly you find yourself at Huntington Memorial and it was the last day and you were just, have somebody at least call our office and let us know what's going on and be prepared to bring some documentation that you were at Huntington Hospital. But yeah, if you don't register, there are lots of people hanging out waiting for the next lottery to have that seat. These are the things that you need to register. An original birth certificate, the child's immunization record. That's another thing. I'll just take a pause here. If the immunization record is not completely up to date, so you're reading the letter and saying, oh, well, I don't have an immunization record or something, do not let that prevent you from going to do the registration, okay? Take everything that you do have, and then the school will make a notation if you're missing something. Now, you must have the birth certificate, okay? But if the immunization record isn't there, if you don't have a current utility bill or something, go with what you have, and we'll try and work with you, okay? But don't stay home and go, well, I didn't have it, and then call and say, now I have it, and the deadline's passed. An IEP is something that students who are getting special education services have. So if your student is getting special ed services, then you would want to bring their IEP. Students who are doing applying for dual language and applying as native speakers or a Spanish speaker or French speaker, there is an assessment to just make sure that they were indeed what I'm going to say was up here, native speaker, okay? So that would be part of the registration process is having the assessment. And I guess I should tell you that, the good thing is if the child passes the assessment, they're in the program. The bad news is if the child does not pass the assessment, then they will need to reapply in the second lottery and for the second lottery, and hopefully there are openings as a non-native speaker, okay? And we've defined what is a native speaker because it can, it's a little nerve-wracking, but generally if the language is spoken 50% or more of the time in the home, the child is, in all likelihood, a native speaker. It's not a huge test, but it's to ensure that the dual language classes have a balance of native and non-native. The native speakers can be very helpful to all of the other students if they can, understand already what the teacher's saying, because the teachers are not going to speak English in those classes. A transcript if you are, I got to change that slide. We don't need a transcript for the App Academy. That's at the high school. There's no longer eligibility requirements for that. But middle school and high school students, if you're here in PUSD, that's easily done between the schools. If you're not currently attending school in PUSD, then you would bring a child's transcript. The superintendent mentioned we do welcome students from outside of the district, but I want to assure you that they are not kind of invited to participate in this process until we get to the second lottery, when they will be able to do what are called applications of interest. They're basically applying, and we have them over here on a side track while we continue to do finish up open enrollment for our residents. Then if there were openings left over, many of them sometimes are in the academies at the high school level, then out-of-district families can apply, who have applied will be notified. Out-of-district families can also come in May and just apply for any school that may have space. We have families who they work here in Pasadena, but they live somewhere else. They want their children to go to school. So, but that's all guided by a board policy, and I just want to assure you that residents come first. We are kind of always looking to, kind of make some enhancements and things to the open enrollment process. The master plan is kind of what's has been coming together to kind of create a pathway for families to know where, if you begin in elementary here, this is where you could go to middle to continue if you're in a unique program, and this is where you would go to high school. We'd love for you to make PUSD your first choice. We do have award-winning schools. We have blue ribbon schools, distinguished schools. The superintendent talked about magnet schools. There are amazing partnerships from Huntington Library to Huntington Memorial to the Arts Center to JPL, Caltech. We're just really, really fortunate to have relationships with entities that, completely, wholeheartedly engage in the district and support students. It is a college-going district, and it's tuition-free. So with that, I'm going to, there was one last thing I realized when, oh, yes. When you are doing the online application, there are several screens, and it starts with, some basic, it starts by telling you, we're not using your information for any other purpose. You have not completed your application until you've hit submit, and you get in the top left corner the words thank you, okay? When you get to thank you, take a picture or print it out, okay? And now you are done, okay? So you'll get a confirmation page, and that confirmation page is followed by, I think, a quick survey of 5 questions. You must answer those questions and get to thank you, and then you're done, okay? We've had 1 or 2 families. Can you save and go? Like save along the way, or do you do it in one sitting? I think you should probably do it in one sitting, but I'm glad you asked that question because you can come back and change it up until February 2nd. Using that, if you don't have an ID number already for your child, you'll be given one when you do the application. So go through to the end, get the confirmation, get your confirmation, get that number, and then say you go on a tour, and this has happened. Somebody's gone with a friend who said, you're kidding, you didn't look at Longfellow? So you go and look at Longfellow, and go, oh, yeah, I think I'll make that my first choice. You can go back in and do that. Yes? All right. I thank you. You know what? It's a cold night. It's a weeknight, but I definitely appreciate everyone that's come this evening. And I want to remind you that more information is at openenrollment.info. Our office is, here every day, 8 to 5. Please call us. Good luck to you tomorrow. And if there are any questions that you want to ask in front of everyone, or if you want to ask me, independent of everyone, I'll stick around for a little bit longer and just address whatever, questions you might have or anything else. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.